Hey there, everyone, and welcome to Pour and Explore, a wine, food, and travel podcast. I'm your host, Nick Elliott, the wine guy. I'd love to be your go-to guide for all things wine, food, and the amazing places they take us. Here on Pour and Explore, we'll sip, savor, and wander through the exciting world of wine, discuss incredible cuisines, and uncover the stories behind unforgettable destinations. Each week, I'll bring you lively conversations with wine experts, chefs, travel pros, and fellow enthusiasts. We'll share practical tips, hilarious tales, and plenty of inspiration to fuel your next adventure. So grab a glass, pull up a chair, and join me as we pour, explore, and celebrate the good life. Let's dive in. All right, welcome back, my friends, to another episode of Pour and Explore, a wine, food, and travel podcast, where we take big sips of life, one conversation at a time. I am Nick Elliott, the wine guy, sommelier, chef, former winemaker, and I am here as your tour guide through the worlds of flavor, discovery, and connection. Now, most weeks you hear me talk about wine, you hear me talk about food or travel, and yes, there will be more of that coming, I promise. But today we're exploring a little bit of a different pour, not from a bottle, but one from the heart. My guest today is someone who embodies what I love about this show. He's got a story, he's got a passion, he's got a whole lot of fun built into what he does, and his name is Corey Allinder. He is the host of the Cracked Skull podcast, and before you ask, yes, there's a story behind the name, and he tells it in this episode. You know, Corey's show is part bourbon tasting, part cigar lounge, part comedy club, and part real talk therapy session with your best friends. Just imagine a table full of blue collar guys and gals, a forklift driver, a plumber, a security guard, just hanging out at a home built bar slash studio, and they are there to light up a cigar, pour some whiskey, and just talk. They talk about work, they talk about life, and they talk about mental health, about the kind of days where you just need to get things off your chest. And because these guys have such a great chemistry, this show is absolutely hilarious. It's unpredictable, and it's raw in all the right ways. You know, that last part, mental health, is where Corey really hooked me because June is Men's Mental Health Month. We recorded this back in June, so we'll have another one coming up again soon. And as we discuss, this is an area that doesn't get nearly enough attention. Corey, Tony, Allen use their platform not to preach, but to show you that it's okay, necessary even for men to talk about their struggles, about their stress, and what keeps them up at night. And they do it in a way that makes you feel like you're just another buddy sitting at the bar with them and having a great conversation. In this conversation, you'll hear about how Corey went from bowling alley beers to a deep love of bourbon, the kind of love that leads to 112 plus bottles in his home at one point. We get into his favorite affordable pours, his never again bottles, and how distilleries in Ohio and Kentucky have welcomed him in as a part of their whiskey family. You know, if you're a spirits nerd, if you're someone who is a great love of insider tasting notes and distillery shoutouts, this is the place to be. It's really, really a fun conversation. We also talk about cigars. His go-tos, again, is Never Again's, and the story about a budget stick that smells so bad he actually made someone put it out in his own house. And of course, because this is Pour and Explore, I wanted to know all about the people behind the podcast. Corey's wife has been on the show. His daughter is their unofficial studio manager, and his best friends are by his side. So I cannot wait to get this one out there. What I love most about Corey, he's not just chasing clicks with the podcast, he's chasing connection. And whether the episode gets 5 views or 5,000 views, the mission is all the same. Hang out with your buddies, have real conversations, and even if one listener feels less alone because of it, that is a win. So, pour yourself something, bourbon, wine, coffee, water, whatever's in your glass, and settle in. This is a great reminder that whether your thing is wine, whiskey, cigars, or just finding your people, it is the camaraderie that really matters. Corey, thank you so much for being on the show today. I really, really appreciate it.
I appreciate it, sir. Thank you. I mean, I mentioned on our show this past recording that I was going to quote unquote pour myself out a little bit because other than my own podcast, I've only ever done one other podcast, which is a friend's podcast. So he lives about 2 hours away from me. So that's kind of how I got started, was just being on his show. And then I caught the bug. So like most people did, especially during like the pandemic and everything, you seem like every Tom, Dick, and Harry who could, afford decent recording equipment was making podcasts and stuff like that. So, but yeah, I greatly appreciate you having me on. I mean, this is going to be fun. So.
Well, I'm so glad you're here. You said somebody lives 2 hours away from you. I know you're there in central Ohio, right? So
yeah. I'm Western Ohio. I'm 30 minutes. If you know geography, I'm about 30 minutes north of Dayton. So
gotcha.
I'm on the west side.
Well, I was going to ask the all-important question: Cleveland or Cincinnati?
Cincinnati.
Browns or Bengals?
Neither. I'm a Falcons fan from Atlanta.
Oh, okay.
As far as football goes, I'm a diehard Blue Jackets fan in Columbus. I'm a White Sox fan from Chicago, and obviously go Buckeyes because, we're in the Buckeye State. So,
dang it. I saw the Mitchell and Ness out there. So
yeah, I got it's the one I always wear for the podcast, and it's my Blue Jackets hat. So
okay, perfect. Love it. All right, so neither. I'm okay with that answer.
As far as traveling, I'm obviously only about 90 minutes north of Cincinnati. I'd rather hang out in Cincinnati anyway. I've been to Cleveland a few times, not had any great experiences in Cleveland, so I'd rather just kind of stick to the South. So
the mistake on the lake.
Yep, unfortunately. I sat in that stadium one year and watched my White Sox play at the time, the Indians, and they'll always be the Indians to me. I don't care how many times they changed the name. And we unfortunately fell 9-8 to them. So
Understood. Well, I brought up at the beginning of the show, you've got your own podcast, and you talked a little bit about it, the Cracked Skull podcast. There's got to be a great story just behind the name. Tell us a little bit about that. Just behind the name.
Okay, so when I was a young lad growing up, I cracked my head open twice.
Oh, goodness.
And I still have 2 dents in the side of my head from when I cracked my head open. So when we were coming up with names, there was a few names that were thrown out there, and I have a love of skulls. If you've ever seen the show, there's a big, huge female size one that sits on our bar right to my right here. And I 3D printed that, and it just became the mascot. And then I did the big mural behind all the boys if you ever watch the podcast. So it just kind of caught on, and I have a couple of skull tattoos as well. So it kind of fit the idea. And then the co-host at the time loved it, and we've since moved on to him because he's not a good dude. So
all right, well, I'm glad you've moved on to greener pastures.
Yes, sir.
Definitely. Well, let's just go with it. You talked a second ago about doing 3D printing, and I know that's your regular gig. That's what you do for a living. How does one become a professional 3D printer?
So that's more of a hobby. I actually have like a full-time day job. I took a vacation week. I got some stuff coming up for the family this week, and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna take an extra Thursday off to talk to Nick. So, but yeah, 3D printing came along. We took a family trip. I have 3 kids, 2 boys and a girl. When they were a little bit older, the first time we took a trip, we went to Nashville, and my daughter was really young. She wouldn't have remembered it. So during the pandemic, we went to Chicago. We tried to do what we could because things were open, some things weren't, and we did the touristy things. Rode the L and did all the fun stuff. And then while we were there, I was talking to my wife, and I was like, you know what, I really want to get into 3D printing. And I just got on Marketplace and found a really cheap, $100 printer and brought it home with me. That was my vacation gift that I brought home. It just grew from there. At one point, I had 7 printers going at one time. They were making parts for each other. I was making things for other people. And when we moved to the new house here in Sydney, we're living in North Lewisburg, Ohio. Then we moved to Sydney. I decided I needed to downgrade. So I downgraded to 3 and then kind of got bored of it for a while. I mean, people who can make money off 3D printing is because they're selling stuff on Etsy's and stuff like that, or they have a big following and stuff like that. I'm not that guy. I'll do things with friends and stuff like that, or I'll do one-off things where I could sell real quick. Or the one thing I made that was really, really cool, I took a bunch of filament that I had that was just laying around. I challenged myself to remember how to do all the proper steps, and it took about a week to make. It was just using up old filament, and I had to sit there and watch it and make sure it was doing what it was had to do. And it ended up being about that tall.
Yeah,
it was all done, and it was a Darth Vader Buddha. Is what it turned out being. So it was the head of Darth Vader and the body of Buddha.
Man!
And then I painted it and made it look real cool, and then somebody bought it for $200. So
Nice.
Yeah. So I mean,
Nice.
I made a good little chunk of change on that one. It was just out of filament that was just laying around. So, but yeah, I just do
Well,
it for fun. I don't really try to make a lot of money off it. I do things for, obviously for my kids and stuff like that, because my daughter's
yeah.
13 and she's artsy fartsy and she likes that kind of stuff. And so I just finished 2 projects for my tattoo artist, which I'm going to take down to Columbus tomorrow for them. As we're recording this, I don't know when this episode will be out, but tomorrow, Friday, the 13th, I'm heading to Columbus to drop those off to him. So, but yeah, I just finished those up. I'm really good at doing like QR codes. So if somebody wants like a plate with their QR code for like their websites or whatever they want to have people go to, that's what I was doing for him as well. He just changed the name on his Instagram page, so he wanted a new updated QR code to match when he puts it up in the studio. So
Yeah, that's a neat idea. Awesome. Awesome. Well, very cool. So let's talk a little bit more about the podcast.
Okay.
You guys are talking about a lot of different things, which I find fascinating. I've listened to a few episodes and you guys are a lot of fun and, it's a very enjoyable listen.
We get raw there after a while. After the drinks pour for a little bit, it gets crazy. So
Absolutely. As it should be.
Yeah.
Especially when you get multiple, people in the same room.
Yeah.
But you guys are talking about cigars. You're sitting there enjoying a cigar. You guys are talking about whiskeys, specifically bourbon. You guys are talking about some mental health issues. I mean, you're covering a lot of ground, which I think is great. For someone who maybe not be familiar with Cracked Skull, give us the overview of what it's about.
Okay. So in 2023, May of 2023, me and my old co-host, we started the podcast. It was mainly just going to be me and him talking about bourbon and just crazy things that happen in our lives. He would come up here, he would drive from Columbus up to here, and we would sit for 4 or 5 hours and we record 5 or 6 episodes and just bang them out. And, record every other weekend. So we have an off weekend to go do family stuff and whatever happens, It just got to the point where getting hammered every other Saturday wasn't fun anymore, and I go back to my dad. My dad's my biggest hero. He told me one time, it's not fun drinking by yourself. That's a big mental thing. If you sit and drink by yourself, what are you doing? You're either drowning away sorrows or you're trying to forget something, right? Or you're relaxing from a hard week at work. Well, if I'm going to have my friends up and build a bar, I might as well record it and we'll have some fun doing it. And that's kind of how it started. And when Tony came along, which is my new co-host, and Alan, who joined his friend also, they've been friends for almost 20 years. It clicked. Everything just kind of clicked. It got a lot better. Me and Tony decided that us being blue collar workers, because I'm a forklift driver, he's a plumber, Alan's a security guard. So we're all blue collar. The mental aspects of going into that stuff. So, Tony's a plumber. He works ungodly hours. Alan's a security guard. He works ungodly hours. I'm a forklift driver. So I deal with stress of, driving heavy equipment and stuff around every day. So just those stories brought us all kind of together, and we found that camaraderie. We can come in here, we can smoke a cigar, we can drink a little bit of whiskey and just unleash, and it helps get that frustration out. It helps get that anguish off your mind. Like, I don't want to carry these feelings. If you're having a hard week, that's fine, as long as you've worked hard. If you're taking this stuff into the weekend and you're doing all the wrong things afterwards, then what are you really accomplishing? We used to do 2 episodes a week, long form, and then we do 2 whiskey reviews. And we decided we didn't really want to do the whiskey reviews anymore. A, they weren't getting a lot of traction. B, it's just an excuse to drink more. So we just kind of pivoted off that. Now we still do the bourbons, we still do the cigars. We're actually doing more of distillery tours and stuff now, which is fun. We have 2 that we really team up with now. There's one here in Troy called Hainer, which is, if you see the picture that I sent you, that's the bottle I had. They've been super, super good to us. I've been drinking their whiskey ever since before I started the podcast, and they've been super cool to us. They've had us in for a few different tastings and stuff that they haven't even released yet, and they've picked our brains on stuff that they wanted to release, and they've took those ideas and released them. There's a bottle of 1866 they just did at the end of last year, beginning of this year, that we went and tasted before they started bottling it and deciding what the name and stuff was going to be on it. And we gave them notes on it, and they tweaked it, and that's kind of what came out. And then we said, hey, you should put a high proof version of that out. Then last month they put out a 112 proof version of that. So it's been real fun. Then we have Echo Distilling in Columbus that we went down. If you're ever on TikTok and you find a guy called a Bourbon Dad, his name is Wes. He's super fun. He has a lot of great TikTok videos, and we kind of hooked up with him, and we're getting ready to go do another tasting with them here probably in the next couple of weeks. So there'll be another video with them coming up soon. So, but yeah, the aspect of mental health and stuff. I mean, June is Men's Mental Health Month. There are many stats out there to the point where it's like every 60 seconds, a male in our demographic, I happen to guess that you're probably the same age as I am or close to, are deciding that the end all be all of their day is to not be here anymore. And that's not fair. I mean, whether it be work, whether it be, dumb relationship moves or, whatever they have going on, they've decided that that's the course of action they want to take, and that's not right. So, if anybody watches our show and they decide, hey, there's 3 idiots in Ohio that are sitting there BSing with each other and picking on each other, and they have these stresses, and I can see that they're going through it, and I can make it out better than, I can tough through it, then I've done my job. And Tony's done his job, and Alan has done his job. And I never say my podcast. It's our podcast. I have never once they claim. And if you ever watch the show, you always notice I always introduce myself last. It's those two guys than me. Or if it's just Tony and I, it's Tony than me. So it's our three podcasts. So, but yeah, it's fun. I really enjoy doing it. I mean, I just messaged Alan a little bit ago because he's working tonight. I said, wish you were here drinking with me because I'm sitting here at the house drinking by myself. So, so I am drinking tonight a bottle of Foolproof 1792, which is a barrel pick from Total Wine. And then I also picked up something new to me that I wanted to try. I've been looking for. It's from Lexington Distilling, and they've done a bourbon and cherry cola in a can, which is what I'm going to try here tonight.
That's fun.
So yeah, it's supposed to be cherry cola and vanilla cola and bourbon. So it's supposed to be pretty good.
I'm going to definitely give that a try. Awesome. Well, I mean, I love the fact that you are taking that concentration into men's mental health because it certainly does not get enough attention. It's something that, I've dealt with in my life and, family and all of that stuff. So it's a super interesting topic. And I love the fact that the three of you are taking it on together. And I think just the three of you sitting down and having those conversations, that is cathartic in and of itself. The fact that you can talk to someone.
That's a Tony word. He's brought that to the podcast. It's very cathartic, and I had to look it up because that's a $10 word as far as I'm concerned. So, but yeah, he brought that in, and that's been kind of his go-to. Like, even if we don't record, like he'll come up and we'll work. Like, we're not anywhere close to really being done with the studio. Like, it'll always be a project. I mean, we're always going to do stuff to it and make it better. Like, we actually want to move it. My yard's not like super huge. We want to move it and add on to the studio, so it's a little bit bigger. But then I run into the same issue that I'm having now, is where the air conditioner can't keep up, and I got fans on and everything else. I'm trying to not roast in my own studio. So I don't know what the temperature is out there, but it was 87 degrees here in Ohio with like almost 80% humidity. So it's just, when I came in earlier, it was like 70 points of humidity in the studio. I'm roasting. So I'm trying to convince Tony to buy a mini split so we can definitely take care of the situation.
Oh, there we go. That works out.
Yeah,
that works out.
Those things are nice.
Yeah.
So.
You talked about drinking to drown your sorrows, and we all understand that is an epidemic. I probably enjoy more whiskey than I should, obviously more wine than I should as well. But for me, it's an enjoyment. It's not a mental vacation, for me, if you will. And I think what you guys are doing, the proof is in the pudding that you don't need to go out and hire, not saying don't hire a therapist or whatever, certainly if you need that, please do it. But just having a group of friends to sit around and chat with, or a friend to sit around and chat with, that can be helpful. And as a guy, even as a man's man, we need to talk things out, and whether that's sitting around with your friends or talking to a professional.
Yeah. I mean, we all need a support group. I mean, whether it's like you just said, if it's one dude or three dudes, or you actually go and pay somebody to sit down on their couch and talk to them or not. But I've always been told, if you can make it through tomorrow, if you can quit tomorrow, you'll make it through. So, I can make it through today. I'm going to quit tomorrow. You wake up the next day, it's a fresh start, and just keep doing that. I mean, we were raised with, you fell down, you skinned your knee, rub some dirt on it, keep going. I still do that. And I tell my boys the same thing, but it's also, hey, dad's here. If you need something, come talk to me. Or, you have your own friends group, you need to reach out to them and talk to them as well. But it's been super nice, man. Let me tell you, the community is nice. Definitely the bourbon community is awesome. I've not met one person that has any animosity or anything towards anybody else. I mean, it's been great, man. I really enjoy taking the steps. I mean, I was building cars and stuff in my garage and, doing 3D print and stuff like that. Now that I don't do car builds anymore, and I barely do 3D printing, which I'm trying to get back into, and it's a love I have. But this takes up most of my time. I mean, I think about things we could say or things we can do or different show ideas. So much like you do. I mean, YouTube's not a great place. It gives you a lot of, ideas and stuff like that. Stuff you got to come up on your own. So I don't do by the algorithms and stuff like that. I mean, we come here, we turn the cameras on, what comes out, comes out. So.
Absolutely. Yeah, you're not necessarily recording for SEO purposes. And it sounds like podcasting has become almost a form of therapy for you and your friends there. So I think that's amazing that you've been able to find that and go along with it and turn it into something that is helpful to other people. I think what you're doing is fantastic.
Thank you. Oh, it ain't
Absolutely.
just me. It's those two idiots I do the show with too. So,
And when
it's
I
all-
say you, I mean all three
yeah,
of
it's
you,
us
of course.
as
Yeah.
a whole. I got you. But
Yeah.
no, it's fun, man. I really enjoy it. And since I've known who you are, I've watched a few episodes. I think the last one you had was a cooking episode, if I remember correctly.
Yep.
I
Mhm.
caught most of that one. That was pretty fun. But if we're not recording, I'll fire up the grill and we'll cook hamburgers and brats and stuff, sit out back and talk, just like any other, just a regular Saturday. We'll sit there,
Yeah.
crack a beer and cook on the grill like any normal do. But then we come in here and we turn the cameras on, we get to have more fun. So, but yeah, it's great. We go from work stories to family stories to my dog running off 3 times a week. We have to go fucking catch and everything else. Oh man, she just took off last night too. She broke the chain in the backyard and we had to go find her. So right before I had
Oh
to go to
my
work.
goodness gracious.
So,
Get yourself one of those electric fences.
she just had puppies too. I was like, why are you leaving your puppies? Are you trying to go out for milk or something? What are you doing? So we had 8 puppies Memorial Day weekend with her. So we have German Shorter Pointers. I have a male and a female, and they had puppies over the week or 2 weekends ago. So we're discovering the joy of having puppies and the realization that we need to get rid of said puppies in our house right now. So,
Yeah, that's a chore. Most definitely.
yeah.
Holy moly. Well, let's talk a little bit about bourbon. Bourbon is my favorite whiskey. I love everything about it. I have not met a bourbon that I haven't loved, maybe one or two, but I've got my go-tos that I love. For mixed drinks, it's typically a little bit of Jim Beam. My on the cheap bourbon is Wild Turkey 101.
Okay, nothing wrong with that. I like Wild.
Yeah,
that was one of the first ones I
absolutely.
had. So
Yeah, it's easy. It's on the less expensive side. The 1792 is absolutely amazing.
oh,
Tell me how your love of bourbon came about.
it was a drunken night.
As
I had
most good things happen, yeah.
right. I had a friend named Joe Duncan. We worked together and we decided we were going to go bowling one night. Unfortunately, I was underage and Joe was not. And we got to the bowling alley and I decided that, hey, Joe, we need to drink some beer. Growing up in a hardworking blue collar family, beer was not unusual around my house, especially my dad. Miller High Life is our family go to. And so we sat and split 7 pitchers of draft Budweiser that night. In the midst of that, I told Joe, because Joe's a big guy, still is kind of a big guy. I said, hey, Joe, let's do some shots. And he goes, anything I want? I said, anything you want, bud. And I threw 20 on the counter and he brought back a double shot of Wild Turkey 101. It was my first whiskey I've ever had. And I blacked out that night because apparently I drank Jägermeister shortly thereafter as well. And that's what made me black out. And I will never drink Jägermeister ever again. To the point, like I said, I blacked out and that was it. But then I moved away from family. I moved to Nashville, Tennessee. And then that's where, obviously you're in south of Bourbon area. And so I really got into like the Crowns and always had a bottle of Wild Turkey 101 at the house. When I moved back, I didn't really give up on drinking. It just wasn't for me at the time. Trying to get back into, going through a divorce and stuff like that and trying to get my feet back underneath me and moving back with family and stuff, get back to Ohio. But then I went on my friend's it was always something I liked. And I started listening to my friend's podcast, which is the Buckhorn podcast. So you can catch it on YouTube as well. And I fell back in love with it. And it's been fun. There's so much out there. Like I always said, I would never spend more than $30 on a bottle of bourbon. And I can tell you right now, I have a bottle of bourbon in there. It's $125 what me and Tony split on it. So, which is a bottle of Booker's. And it's fantastic. Currently, right now in my house, there's 112 bottles of whiskey between 2 cabinets. And that's just because I buy stuff and then the boys buy stuff and they bring it up here and they leave it. And I'm just like, I don't need this much whiskey, which is something no one should ever have to say is I don't need this. But we have 112 bottles of whiskey in the house. But yeah, it's been fun and you'll find some hit and miss. I can tell you right now, I will never drink Beam 8 Star ever again. I can tell you I will never drink Lead Slinger ever again. Those 2 are trash. In fact, we put lead down range on that bottle of Lead Slinger because it was horrible.
Yeah, I can't say that I've had that one.
Oh, don't save your money. It's $30. You'll throw it down the drain. But if you're looking for a good cheap whiskey, get yourself a bottle of Evan Williams Bottle and Bond. That's great. I have 2 bottles in the house right now. It's a standard go-to. I'm literally 90 minutes from the border of Kentucky. I can go down. The world's largest liquor store in the world is just across the border in Newport. It's called the Party Source, and they have, I kid you not, I did a video and it's gotten over 130 something views on it. It was like one of the first videos I did. And they're literally the whole side of the building is nothing but bourbon.
Wow.
The whole one wall is. So it's great. It's a great place to go if you just want to get out of town and obviously get out of what you're doing and get out of Cincinnati. If you're living in Cincinnati, go across the border, go to the aquarium and stuff like that. But it's great if you're into bourbon. That's a good place to go. But I've traveled to Lexington. I've traveled to Louisville, bourbon hunting and stuff like that. And the fact that you can't find the bottle that you want in Louisville is not because you couldn't find it. It's because your pockets weren't deep enough. I don't know how you guys do liquor out in California. I will tell you that Ohio is a controlled state. The state determines what the price is going to be. So it's kind of nice for the consumer part of it, but you have to get up early on drop days to get there to get what you want. And I don't have time to do that stuff. So I unfortunately have to pay the premium and buy secondary when I want something really, really nice. But I'm just not willing to get up on a Saturday morning at 5 o'clock in the morning and travel to whatever liquor store I think may have it and then wait to find out if they do or don't have it. So if you go to Kentucky, it's not controlled. I've seen bottles of Weller Foolproof go for almost $400 down there. So here in the state of Ohio, it's about $80. So
Wow.
definitely not.
Holy moly.
And that's on the shelf. That's retail down there is at $400. So
Goodness gracious. Wow. Yeah, I grew up in Pennsylvania, so I know all about the state controlled liquor. Definitely, definitely. But here in California, you know, we're free as birds here in California. We get just about everything. There's nothing that I've heard of that has come out that's not available here in California. So we get that stuff pretty easily, you know. And there's a great liquor store. You talked about the place across the border there in Kentucky. There's a place not too far from me here in San Diego. They have floor to ceiling, and when I mean ceiling, I mean 20-foot ceiling, floor to ceiling bourbon and whiskey. It's 10 shelves all the way to the ceiling, and then it's, you know, a good 15, 20 feet wide. It's the craziest thing. They have one of those library
style ladders and slide.
Exactly. The ladders on the thing to get all the way up to the top shelf. That's how high it goes. That's a nice place. I love that. That's crazy.
Place. I traveled to Indiana a couple weekends ago because I'm literally 30 minutes from the border from Indiana. We have a wall project just to my left here that we're going to start working on soon, Tony and I bought what I thought was 100 to 120 barrel staves, so like the actual sides of the barrels. And I got there and it was like almost 300. So I had to pile in the back of the Flex and drag them back home. On the way back out, I did pass the liquor store. I did go in and check to see what they had. And apparently Indiana is not liquor controlled either because their prices were outrageous. So I feel it in the pocketbook every time I want to go out of state and find stuff. But it's like, man, I know where it's at. I just don't have pockets deep enough to get it. So
yeah, absolutely. The one thing that I don't like about the state of California is the taxes on tobacco products. And that's what we're going to talk about next is, you know, the cigar prices here in California are absolutely ridiculous. So let's talk about cigars. I'm sitting 3 feet from my giant humidor over here. I have a cigar probably every other night. I love smoking. What is your go-to?
So currently I have a few. I have the one I'm smoking right now is a Knuckle Duster by Punch. That seems to be a solid go-to for me. That's in about the $8 to $9 range a stick, which is decent for a everyday kind of smoke. I've had the Cohibas. I've had hand rolls from Cuba that my sister brought back from her cruises because she goes on cruises freaking 3 times a year. I don't know why she does that, but she goes on cruises 3 times a year. When I always at least get one hand rolled back. And it's just, you know, if you go and talk to the sommelier there at the building, you can find stuff that you like. And I go to one place in Troy, Ohio, Pickwood, 20 minutes south of me. And that's the same store I've been going to for the last year and a half. And the guy is a sommelier. I go in and say, hey, this is what I'm looking for. And this is exactly which way to point me. And it's great. I mean, I've had the James Hetfield cigars. I've had, you know, the Punch seems to be a really solid go-to right now. We had the Buffalo Trace ones last weekend when we were up here recording. There's not much. I mean, if you've ever seen one called a Chillin' Moose, it's like a $3 cigar. Do not buy it. You're wasting your time. It stunk up my whole house the one time we had it. It was horrible. One guy brought him up and he started to light up. I said, please put that out. I've never told anybody to put a cigar out in my house. I said, I will get you one out of my humidor. It's way better than that. Please put that out. So, yeah, it was horrible. But yeah, it's something I didn't really think I would do as a young lad, is smoke cigars and stuff. But you know, when you start drinking whiskey and you're sitting around with your friends and stuff like that, I mean, it's either that or smoke cigars. And I absolutely hate the smell of cigarette smoke. So I won't smoke cigarettes. But you know, during the recording day, I may smoke 2 or 3 because it depends how many episodes we do. I always end up smoking at least one. And then when I do my editing, because I do all the editing and stuff for the show as well, I'll sit and smoke while I'm editing. So I'm usually up about maybe 4 during a recording week and 1 during a non-recording week. So I'll stay here Saturday night and start it and then finish up on Sunday. So as we're recording last Saturday, the guys were up, we recorded. That's when we did our 100th episode. 2 weekends before that, we were supposed to record. They just came up, hung out. We didn't really do much. We didn't record anything. And I smoked a cigar that weekend. And they were surprised when they came back last Saturday. And I said, you see that cigar sitting there? They said, yes, it's the same one from 2 weeks ago. I let it sit on the bar and I lit it right up. I didn't care. It was dry or anything like that. They were like, are you kidding me? I was like, nope, I'm not wasting it. It's sitting there. So, but yeah,
Yeah,
It was fun. I mean, it was
one of my
fun.
mottos is you drink what you like, or in your case, you smoke what you like.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I cracked this up when you were resetting everything. It's actually really, really tasty. If you can find these in your area, you can go to LexingtonDistillery.com and search for the Bourbon Rolla, Burbonola. It's a prohibition
Okay.
style. It's bourbon and cherry cola and vanilla cola. It's actually really tasty. It's 12%. So it's almost like an IPA.
Fantastic. Okay. All right. I will definitely check that out. Awesome.
Yeah,
Awesome.
they're good.
Well, so cool. So, you're doing all this fun stuff. You got this great group of friends. You've got a great thing going with yourself. Awesome family, it sounds like. How does the family feel about the podcast, by the way? Are you integrating them all into what you're doing?
So my oldest, who's 19, he just turned 19 last weekend as we're recording, could care less. He's got his own thing he does. And my middle son is kind of cool about it because he's on YouTube. He's into pro wrestling. So he does like a pro wrestling channel with his action figures and stuff like that. And he talks about wrestling and stuff. So he does that. And we compare followers and stuff like that. So he told me today he had 119. I'm like, that's good, bud. And so I was picking him up from work earlier. Right before we got on, I was picking him up from work. And then my daughter, who's 13, she is quote unquote our unofficial manager. If I say it's podcast week and she knows to come out and she'll make sure the bar's cleaned up and everything is set up correctly and stuff for us. And, if I need something while I'm out here, I can text her and she'll run the things out from the house to me. So my studio is 20 feet from the back of my house. So she'll just run out and bring it out to me. If I said, hey, I need a cigar, or, hey, can you bring this charger out? I need this charger. She's pretty handy. She's if you ever watch the show, sometimes you can hear her talking in the background because she sits out here from time to time and laughs her butt off. So, which is weird sometimes because sometimes we get pretty raw about some things. I'm like, hey, you may want to leave because it's going to get crazy. So I don't let her sit on it. She definitely watches the episodes and stuff like that, which is for me, it's kind of weird still because it's like, hey, I'm on YouTube and never expect to really be on YouTube and stuff like that. And she has a new boyfriend. They'll sit and religiously watch the shows when I go to work. I'm like, you guys got better things to do, man. Come on. Don't sit and watch his dad and his idiot friends. My wife's been on the show many times. She comes out here and she's not really a whiskey girl. She's a rum girl. So she'll sit out here and drink rum with us. And we're slowly working her into bourbon. She hated it at first. Now she's kind of had an understanding of you don't just shoot it. You have to sip it. These aren't shooting whiskey. Yes. You sip them and you take the flavors in. You get the burn a little bit, but the burn goes away and it releases, you get some of the tannins and stuff out of the way and you get the flavors and stuff like that. So she's learning, but we're working on her and maybe she'll maybe give up the rum and come over to the dark side for us. But when I go bourbon shopping, unfortunately, I have to spend time in the rum aisle because that's what she likes. So. Yeah, says, where's the I'm like, it's in the cabinet. Go get the cabinet. Open the cabinet.
Yeah.
So.
It's over there. It's in your special cabinet over there, honey. Well, let's end on this note. You're celebrating 100 episodes. Congratulations.
Yes,
that's
you.
Absolutely amazing. The show is awesome. I can't tell my listeners enough to get out there and go listen to Crack Skull. You're going to absolutely love it. Any big plans for the future? Any twists or turns, shifts in format, anything like that? Any other changes on the horizon that we should be excited about?
No, like I said, we're here in a couple weeks. So we're going to go, hopefully, if I get a message back one of these days from wherever my cell phone is, from Wes at Echo Distilling, we're going to do another taste with them because they just released a new bottle. So we're excited about getting that. We're going to do that with them. We're always hitting up Hainer, which is, like I said, 20 minutes south from my house. We're always hanging out with those guys. We have another distillery in Troy called A.M. Scott, local distillery that we're excited about working with. We're going to do a tasting with them as soon as they get their bottle shop reopened because they had some issues. So they're going to reopen their bottle shop here soon. Go do another tasting with them. But as far as format, we're just going to keep trugging away here. Like I said, if anyone tells you on YouTube they have figured out the formula, how to get 100,000 views every time they release a video, they'd be lying to you. But okay, so here's the mental health aspect of what I do. I'll sit here and I'll record an episode. We'll record an episode. We think it's a banger, and we'll put it out, and it gets 5 views the first 2 days it's out. That irritates me. Then it takes off, and it gets it'll hit 20 views in the next day or two. I'm like, okay, it's picking up, and then it never reaches. Unfortunately, it never reaches the amount of followers that you have as far as views. I don't know if you have that same issue or not, but I've learned to kind of let that go, and eventually it will pick up. Like I said, I released a video about the Party Source. God, it's almost been 2 years now, and it's now just reaching more views than we have followers. So it just takes time. You gotta let that aspect go as far as, oh, I think this episode was awesome, but people don't think it works. So let's change that. Let's change how we do things. You have your buddy show up, you do what you do, and if people like it, cool. If they don't like it, that's cool too. And with what you do, you're not just centered around bourbon. Like kind of what we are. Like, that's not our main point, but that's definitely a secondary part of what we do, and you know, comedy and having fun and doing what we do. But you're a little more open as far as, you know, oh, I have the wine people, I have the bourbon people, I have the food people, I have the travel people. That's
Yep.
awesome. I'd like to see more of that. We've done car episodes where we've traveled and just put the recorder up in the window and just traveled and talked and had fun doing that. Like, there was one time we went to, there was a distillery that was closing in Fort Wayne, which is like 90 minutes from my house. Me and Tony hopped in the car and we just drove, and we got like 4 episodes out of just us talking. The 90 minutes there, 90 minutes back, we got 4 episodes out. And then while we were there, we talked about it and stuff like that. But yeah, just keep doing what you're doing. And if you like what you do, then you'll find your audience. That's the big thing that Tony keeps saying, if they don't like us, who cares? We're doing it for us.
Yes.
And that's the thing I had to get over. Like, that you watch the guys that do all these car episodes and stuff on TikTok, and they're getting 100,000 views the first day it's out and stuff like that. I'm like, man, how many of those are just computer bots that are just fucking, catching up on that stuff? Or,
Sure.
it's crazy that people are making money off YouTube. I don't really care if I make money off this or not. I'm just having fun being creative. That's the key for me, is being creative. I mean, if I can come here, we can sit and have fun, and I can pick on those two and they can pick on me back, and I can laugh, and I'm snorting, and there's snot bubbles coming out, and I've spit so much whiskey out of my mouth on this show. It's not even funny. But if you can do that, if you reach one person, it's awesome.
Yep.
The band that does our intro, which is called Discrepancies, they have a song that they put out, and in the lyrics, he talks about there's a lady that decided that it was time for her to go. She didn't want to be here anymore. She had so much stress in her life, and her friends talked her into going to the show to see Discrepancies. And she went and she saw them play, and got excited about life. And that's all I want. I just want people to be excited about life. I mean, there's so much out there. I mean, everyone's wrapped up in their own little bubble. You need to expand and get out of your bubble. Sometimes that's what's causing your depression. You're being stuck in your own little bubble. I mean, that you get out and you go see your favorite band, you go out, you smoke your favorite cigar, you drink your favorite bourbon with friends. It's awesome. It really is. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've woke up on a Saturday knowing the guys were coming up after 3 hours sleep from working from the night before, because I work second shift. And I'm like, man, what are we going to talk about? And then those are the best episodes, because I'm half tired, I'm giggly, and I just start picking on them, and then they pick on me back, and it just blows up, and it's so much fun. And we do reactions to TikTok videos, and they don't know what videos I'm going to put on, because I don't let them bring videos. I just pick them out myself, and they're to the point where the last episode we had one of their friends up. Her name is Jen, and she almost spit meat out of her nose. That was fun. You get your little group of friends together, and if you think you're funny enough, record it and put it up on YouTube. You won't know the reach you have until you start doing stuff like that. Take the chance. That's the end all be all of it all. If I can tell anybody to do anything, if you think you have a message, put it out there. You get a lot of people saying, well, there's too many people doing podcasts and stuff right now. Like, that's fine. You don't have to listen to them. You don't have to watch them. If they get bored enough with it, I'm not doing the reviews and stuff. I mean, it is what it is, man. But Tony and Alan and myself, man, we have so much fun up here, man. I don't ever see it happen. Like, at the beginning of the episode, the 100th episode, I said 100 more, and Alan said 300 more. I thought, I'm committed to 300 more episodes at least. So
Nice. Well, fantastic. Well, I mean, you obviously love what you do.
Yes, sir.
It's not only helpful to the folks out there listening, but it's helpful to you guys, to keep the friendship and the camaraderie and the mental stability and all of that stuff. And who gives a crap about views?
Right.
If what you're doing helps you and it helps the people who are listening,
Yep.
that's all that matters. Corey, thank you so much for being on the show.
You're
It's
very
been
welcome.
fantastic.
We'll
It's
have to
great
have you.
meet you.
We'll have to have you come on and do a Teams meeting or something. You can come on and help hang out with us or something.
Yeah, I'd love that. Absolutely. Reach out anytime. I'd be
Yes,
happy
sir.
to. All right. Well, my friends, that was an absolute blast. I don't know about you, but I feel like I just spent an evening in Corey's studio, sitting at the bar with the guys, laughing, swapping stories, and maybe learning a little bit more about bourbon and a whole lot more about life. I loved hearing how the Cracked Skull podcast came to be and how it's grown into more than just drinks and cigars. It's a space where 3 friends can be honest, a little bit goofy, and supportive. And in doing that, they're showing their listeners that it's okay to talk about the tough stuff. And that is so powerful. If you want more of that energy in your life, and you do, you got to get over to go find the Cracked Skull podcast. You're going to find that on YouTube and some other places, but I know their big spot is YouTube, so definitely check them out. Go ahead and Google that and get over there. You're also going to find some information down there in the show notes. And please hit that subscribe button for them. And while you're here listening to this episode, make sure you shoot over and hit subscribe or follow. Shoot me a comment. I'd love to hear what you think about this episode. I'd love to hear your feedback about anything that I do here on Pour and Explore. I always will be happy to take your reviews, your criticism, and your laughs. I would love to do that. Corey, if you're listening, thank you again for sharing your story, your humor, your heart with us, and for the rest of us. Until next time, everybody, keep wondering and wandering.
Thank you so much for tuning into this episode of Pour and Explore. I'd love to hear your thoughts, your stories, or your questions, so you can drop me a line at cheers@thewineguy.vin. That's cheers@thewineguy.vin. Or let's connect on TikTok, Instagram, or Facebook. Grab those links on my website at thewineguy.vin. Until next time, let's keep wondering and wandering. Cheers, everyone.